voices.
Our inner voices.
Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of our Inner Voices. I am your host, Mr. Noah Adioye, aka Mr. Inner Voices. You can call me Mr. IV to be honest, if that sounds cooler. Does it? I don't know. For today's episode, I had a conversation with a lovely brother in Spain. His name is Nigel. Nigel's situation is quite interesting because we have two episodes for him, and I'll explain to you why. So the first episode was recorded on April 5th, along with most of the other episodes, and we had a lovely conversation. I mean, as lovely as it can be in a lockdown. We had a conversation about how Nigel was staying safe, and just the general gist of Corona, like how long do you think we're gonna be inside, and so on. Fast forward to a month, and Nigel unfortunately caught the coronavirus. Don't worry, we thank God Nigel made a full recovery, and he's now back up in he's back up and running in his flat because he's still distancing and isolating. So I thought that was very interesting. We got back in there and had another conversation with Nigel just to see how he was doing, and just to ask him what effects he was going through and so on. As usual, please, I've just started a YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to 1 million subscribers by, I'm not going to say when. So if you guys could help me on the journey and get me up to 40 subscribers, that would be pretty awesome. But yeah, now that those announcements are done and out of the way, listen to Nigel. Shit.
Saturday in the morning. Hello, good morning, Nigel.
You've just been, hang on.
Bear
Where
with
are
me
you?
1 second.
Hey there.
I need to pause some music. This is the problem with too many tabs. I can't remember where the music is coming from.
Tabs off.
Can you hear the music?
Yes, yeah, I can hear it. It's not mine.
Where the this isn't. So how are you doing this morning?
I'm fine. Nothing's happened to me. I'm just at home. I've been home for the last 2 weeks. I've been out 3 times, I think. In the last
3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're under.
This is like
It's more strict. I think it's stricter here than it is in Britain. Because I think you can go out for exercise, can't you? But that's forbidden here.
Yeah, we get the one exercise a day.
Well, we have to do that at home. So I've just been walking from the front door up to the terrace over and over again about 150,000 times.
Okay, so first of all, hi Nigel, welcome to an episode of our Inner Voices.
Hi, nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No worries. So could you just tell us a bit about yourself? We know your name is Nigel.
I was born in Britain, lived there, brought up in Britain, studied in London, and then went to South America for a year. I went back to Britain for around 6 months, and I've been out here 30 years now. So
30 years.
30 years I've been here in Palma de Mallorca. Yeah. I live
You
in.
see, when you said, when you said 6 months, you went back to Britain for 6 months. I thought you were going to say, and yeah, I've been here for like, the last 2 months, 3 years. And you're like, no, I thought it was so shit. I was like, fuck this, 30 years somewhere else.
No, I've been out here since 1990.
Wow.
Snap to the Power was number 1 when I came out here.
What song?
Snap the Power?
Yeah, I don't know that song. I wasn't born then.
You do know that song. Believe me, you know that song. I've got the power.
Oh,
on,
okay. I definitely know that song. Okay, and what part of Spain do you live?
Live in Mallorca. So tourist island. No tourists at the moment. The economy is sinking as we speak. Because of course we don't want tourists, because tourists bring even more virus. But without tourists, we're going to die of hunger. So we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. You know.
It's a tricky one. It's like Trump was mentioning the other day. He was mentioning how he wanted the economy to open soon. And there were quite a few people who don't worry, this won't be political, but there are quite a few people who were saying that was like a wrong call. But I can see how people are starting to think, look, man, we kind of survive off this money. So like we're gonna all die anyway if we just stay at home for like 2-3 months.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I can understand world leaders thinking, well, you know, Boris Johnson's just had his head in the sand saying, this isn't going to happen in my country. Is he saying, I don't want this to happen in my country, but it's the virus has its own agenda. It's going to happen whether you like it or not, you know. And I can understand world leaders weighing up the benefits of what is really more important, the economy or a few thousand people dying.
Because it's important to say you can never put a price on a human life, obviously. So that's why it's really important for everybody to take this very seriously and remain indoors. But you like as a human, as a working person, it's a natural thought to have that, you know, in your head is very okay to have the thought that I kind of need to get to work again.
Yeah, and the results, you know, the results of this crisis are going to be so long term. You know, this has never happened before. That's the looking at it from outside. It's fascinating to watch how the whole planet is closing down. You know, every day there are more countries just falling into lockdown. Trump says that after I think he said by the 12th of April, he wants the country back working again.
Yes, I think he wants the country to rise like Jesus, Easter.
Yes, well, Trump does have a lot of strange ideas, doesn't he?
Now, speaking of Trump, as the president of America, one of the questions I have here today is, how well do you think the Spanish government handled the onset of this virus and like trying to contain it?
I think they've taken it a lot more seriously than Trump has.
I think everybody is.
Yeah, well, it's not difficult. Well, the Brazilian guy, Bolsonaro, he's up for a prize in that department. The Mexican, López Obrador, who was inviting people to carry on going out to restaurants and bars. Yeah, there are quite a few candidates for the clown of the year.
But these are Trump's kids, though, so you could expect it from them.
Yeah, I mean the example to follow obviously is China, because China seemed to have handled this well. The number of cases has dropped. You know, they're finishing lockdown now, but then China is a very closed regime. If in China they tell you to stay home, then you stay home. Whereas in the Western world, we're so used to having a much higher degree of liberty and freedom. You know, if the government says we highly recommend you don't go out, such a great part of the population is going to say, well, it sounds like it's my decision whether I do or not.
Exactly.
Whereas, you know, we don't live under a totalitarian regime. So to actually convince the whole population of the importance of this and the possible collapse of the health system, you know, how it can bring a country to its knees, which we're seeing now all over the world. It's psychological, isn't it? You know, how do you get through this? You know, there are a lot of people who are working in the health system who don't have you know, all I have to do is stay at home. You know, is that difficult? Well, yes, it does have there are aspects of that which are a bit, you have to mentalize yourself. But at the same time, you know, if I was working in a hospital, it would be 1,000 times more difficult because you're actually at the epicenter, you're seeing the effects of the virus on people, you're seeing the collapse. of people coming into emergency. You don't have the right equipment to protect yourself, but you decided to do that job, and it's because you like helping people and curing people, but you know that you're exposed to the effects of the virus, which will then send you home, and you won't be able to look after people because you're being quarantined for another 14 days. It's everyone has their own story.
A few moments later.
Yeah, that's true. How are you, Nigel? How are you, man? I'm so sorry to hear that you got struck down by the Rona. How are you feeling?
Well, it was quite ironic after talking about it with you, and you finally go and catch. I'd been at home for 5 weeks. I'd only been out to the supermarket once every 4 or 5 days. And then suddenly I started to get a really, really bad rash, covered my whole body, which is something that, they isn't commented on very much. The symptoms that we're given are just the cough, the problems with your lungs, breathing problems, but they really haven't spoken much about the skin aspect. And I saw a study, as soon as it started to happen to me, I looked on internet to see if I could find any articles related to this, beginning to think that something so weird happening to my body had to be a symptom of something weird. So I found a study that said that 20% of Italian patients had all had something related with their skins. And it's not commented on, the skin aspect. And that's why I was taken into hospital, not because of breathing problems at all. I was really fortunate in that it didn't affect my lungs, but the skin was just unbearable. I just couldn't be, just scratching like a dog.
Wow, I didn't. Yeah, this is the first time I've heard that skin conditions were related to corona. So, do you have any idea how you might have caught this? Because I know you didn't show any real symptoms. So, at what point did you catch this?
No idea. The day I started to get the skin rash really coming through seriously, I'd been to the supermarket that day, and there's a limit to what you can do. You can't just live in a bubble. I went out to the supermarket. You pick up food packages. If somebody sneezed, coughed, or just talked on them, from what they tell us, the virus can be there. Then you bring that into your home. You can. I don't disinfect all my food packets. Maybe we should. You come home, you wash your hands, and then you put the shopping away. So, what you brought into your home, you're touching again after you've washed your hands. My partner's been going out to work, coming home, having a shower, and then just normal living together. So it's impossible to know exactly where it's come from.
Wow, this is that's crazy. Like, sorry, I'm looking up real quick. My handwriting is really bad. I tried to set myself up with some professional stuff. So I remember you. Let me see. I remember you were last time we spoke. You mentioned that being in Mallorca, the tourism industry was being hit very hard because it was almost like damned if you work. I mean, damned if you. It was almost like you're in trouble if you stay at home because of the virus, but you're also in trouble if you go out to work because of the virus. So now, given after you've gotten the virus yourself, do you feel like it's more important now more than ever to stay at home and maintain the social distancing?
We've been under lockdown for 8 weeks now. The number of cases here in the Balearic Islands, all 4 of the islands, Mallorca, Menorca, Ibiza, and Formentera. I think I'm not sure that we've had 198 deaths. It's really not very prevalent. We've spent 2 months with 0 tourists. We have nobody here at all. All the hotels are closed. Just this month, this week, 2 days ago, they began to open up. Small businesses like hardware stores, bookstores, hairdressers, with extreme measures. This is going to take a while, but they are contemplating maybe now, especially tourists from Germany coming in, maybe not so much Britain because Britain's in a different phase and it's, as you know, it's been more serious, is being more serious in Britain.
I think it's so interesting, not in a bad way, it's interesting. Was also messed up that you caught the virus a few weeks after we had a discussion about it. And what I find really interesting is that you described that you had been in your house for 3 weeks, and you said you had been in your house for 2-3 weeks, and you had left your house 3 times. 5 weeks. So you had been in your house for 5 weeks, and you had left 2 to 3 times. So when you first, what was the first symptom? Was the rash, like you described earlier, the first symptom that you noticed?
Yeah, the rash was definitely the first thing, and it was just so exaggerated in just a question of hours. My whole body, the only part of my body which wasn't affected was the face and the head, but from the neck down, it was just terrible. You just couldn't be scratching for hours on end, and so it was clear that something was wrong. When I went into emergency at the hospital, they took an X-ray of my lungs. They saw some suspicious patches on the lungs, which finally turned out to be nothing. But the combination of the skin condition with the X-rays, they thought it was better to keep me in. And then the following day, they did a COVID test and it came out positive. So they transferred me to the epicenter, with the isolation rooms where they come in, once every few hours, dressed as astronauts. I was in for a week. It was a long week. Medical staff, absolutely wonderful, just sweating away in their personal protection equipment, never complaining, always, good humoured and laughing. It was impossible to feel bad about it. The nights were long with fever and it didn't get to my lungs, but I was fully expecting it to. I was very fortunate that it didn't, but you can't help the brain thinking, well, the whole planet is immersed in this thing, and now you have this, so what's going to happen to you is probably what's happened to the majority of people. Whereas in my case, it just attacked the skin and amazingly left the lungs alone. Thank you.
Yes, when we spoke last time, we were speaking briefly about how Donald Trump and Boris Johnson's responses to the virus had been quite subpar, giving mixed signals, not giving clear enough direction to their people. Since then, Boris Johnson has got the virus, almost died. He's back out of hospital now, thank God for his health. And since then, America they became the country with the most deaths from the virus. And the UK just a few days ago surpassed Spain. So, how do you feel about that? And how do you feel about that?
I think we're unfortunate to have some of the leaders we do have in different parts of the planet at the moment. Of course, if I was saved from the virus, it was because of the large quantities of disinfectant that the nurses injected into my lungs every day. So I'm very grateful to Mr. Trump for that particular piece of advice. Obviously, nothing more humbling than actually having had the virus yourself. So Boris has had some food for thought there, maybe humble pie. And Donald, let's just... I read something this morning saying that rather than the virus being a man-made sort of weapon against humanity, it was actually Donald Trump that is this man-made weapon against humanity. And it's far likely to finish off the American population than the virus is. Let's hope that November brings some good news with the presidential election. But I'm not particularly optimistic about that.
But Nigel, with that being said, I'd like to thank you very much. My lunch break just ended. So thank you so much for speaking to me again.
It's been great talking to you, and very interesting to have this sort of add-on at the end, from my words a few weeks back, and actually having been through it now.
Our inner voices.
Our inner voices.